Good start, Ted. Good start. Too relaxed, clearly. Yeah, okay. I mean, no Leeds players last night. Could have probably been worse. Rafinha had enough chances, didn't he? Like he always does. So I came away from that with, lots of people with Ayling, not Eiling. So I got it right this time. Ayling, getting 2, Rafinha getting just a goal, no bonus, was it? And then Bamford was just an assist. So I got 1 bonus. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it could have been worse. Red arrow for me, but all my players left to play. So fairly happy, fairly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. Fantasy was all right last night. Bamford and Rafinha.
Ted, you're muted. Apparently.
Oh no! So we just had silence and then Az talking.
Answer, yeah, apparently.
Just the way Az likes it.
Yeah, you see, normally it's me. Normally it's me that's muted. This is what happens when I come on streams.
I don't know if people can hear me either.
Well, they can't hear Seb either.
I was going to say, so just be Az monologuing.
Just me. I'll just carry this.
Az, why don't you tell us about all your Leeds thoughts? And no one can come back at you.
Seb's fine now, so me and Seb can.
Okay, cool. Good thing I didn't say anything nasty.
Thanks. 1 second.
It might be the properties on OBS.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Switch that to you, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Lots of people saying, please keep Ted muted, which is nice.
That's so brutal. Hopefully you can hear me now.
I've got the chat in, and then we'll see. Can anyone hear Ted?
Ted's still muted.
Ted back. You're back.
Yay! Great stuff. What a terrible start.
I was about to say, Ted, it's a really nice not having to host and just to be a guest, and then this happens.
Because I can get blamed for all the technical difficulties.
It's lovely. I know.
I've got the whiskey out, so I'm gonna.
We did it.
All the buttons look the same.
that half 10 whiskey is what's caused these technical issues.
Oh my days. Well, basically, what I was saying was just, Az, you're great this morning. Red arrow. Seb, you're great this morning. Green arrow. I've got green arrow. Az, we haven't got any players playing so far, so we're all good. You haven't really missed anything. Thank God we're all back on track.
I mean, arrows at this point don't really matter, do they?
Nah.
Exactly. We're going to do a little stat showdown throughout the course of this stream. So it's basically, Bruce's Price is Right, where they go higher or lower. It's basically that. And we've only got 6 questions each, and it's penalty shootout format. And the victor will get a prize.
Is it ABBA or AB?
I don't even know, but we're going to start off. We're going to start off with 2 questions.
Historically, Scout videos with the quiz have done exceptionally well as well. So looking forward to this.
They've done terribly badly. So
what about when the host mutes themselves at the beginning? How do they do?
I mean, what I've done is set the benchmark so low that this quiz can only improve the standards.
You're actually a genius, Ted.
There we go. Exactly. So we're going to start with 2 questions. This is game week 5, but it's kind of like game week, 5.1, because we already have 1 game. So that's the starting figure. First question to you, Az. Antonio, how many price changes has he had so far? Is it higher or lower than 5.1? We're all benching Antonio this week, by the way.
How many price changes has he had?
How many price changes has he had?
Higher or lower than 5.1?
Yes.
I don't understand the question, Ted.
It's a clue, mate. It's either 5 or 6. How many price changes?
Okay, he's had 5.
He has had 6. He went up to 8 and then went down again. So I'm afraid that's incorrect. And you've got 1 more question, Seb, before we look at your team.
So I shouldn't have celebrated.
Well, I mean, it's now, Az has missed his penalty. Lukaku, how many bonus points has he had so far? Is it higher or lower than 6?
So he will have, when he scored all the 2 goals, he would have had 3, I'm guessing. I'm gonna say lower. I reckon he had 5.
He has had 5. Absolutely spot on. Right, straight to your teams. I'm not going to be hanging about. We've got Seb's team up on screen. 4-4-2. Isn't it a strange game week for formations, isn't it? Because I'm playing 4-5-1, Az is playing 3-5-2 somehow. And you're playing 4-4-2. Talk us through. What moves did you make?
It'll be 4-5-1 when Brownhill comes in for Ben Rama, as we learned this morning.
Oh, God. Let's talk about Ben Rama, because, I mean... Is he definitely out? Or is it just conjecture at the moment, do you think?
I believe so. I don't know if they were embargoed comments. I've literally just seen it on Twitter. But David Moyes from his time in Spain, said that Benrahma picked up a knock in the Europa League and then hinted that they would be without him and Antonio, obviously, for Man United. So it certainly sounds like he's out. I don't know if we've got anything more confirmed.
I don't know. Luke posted something on Twitter earlier, didn't he, about the aftermath of the David Moyes press conference. So West Ham without Antonio Benrahma, that's tough. I think Man United, well, I mean, they probably steamroll that game, don't they? Their defence is pretty strong, West Ham. So, I mean...
And yeah, Man United haven't been the best at creating chances. Like, even against Leeds, when they took us apart, it was from a pretty low XG. And we've seen in matches since then that they've maybe struggled to actually create good chances, especially when a goalkeeper doesn't palm the ball out. So while West Ham probably won't score against them, you'd say, I don't know how much it affects Man United's ability to score against West Ham.
Well, Vlasic can just come in, can't he? And, £30 million they paid for him. And I assume he's just going to slot into the Benrahma role if he's out. He's a worried Benrahma because I've still got him. And I'm thinking I probably need to move him on pretty soon. If there's injury doubts, fixture swings, rotation around, he's not looking the best option anymore.
Super harsh on owners because there was no indication in the presser that he was even the slightest bit injured. And, all the rumours about Rafinha and he ends up playing. No one hears about Benrahma and he ends up being out potentially. Super tough, and I don't think anyone should beat themselves up. I just got super lucky, and I transferred Benrahma out this week. So.
Did you? Who for?
I'm not going to let you know until the end.
I remember.
No, because you hated it.
I did. I did hate it. Yeah.
I might end the stream before we get to my team, actually.
But I was thinking about getting rid of Benrahma for a -4. Decided against it because I think on balance that probably would have been a gamble too far. But obviously now I'm thinking, well, I'll happily take that -4 and have whoever was going to come in for him. Say, for example, a Traore or someone like that.
I think the worst thing is if you've got Ayling first on your bench because, I've got Soufal. So I'm kind of thinking, well, if Benrahma doesn't play, Soufal just comes in. That's fine. If you've got Ayling, then, you're only going to get 2 points and then it's a massive disaster.
That's the hope, isn't it? Was it last Monday I had Luca Dean and Calvert-Lewin to play. And this is the week where I hadn't got Ronaldo or Lukaku like most people, but still had a bit of hope of maybe just about matching scores, a clean sheet, a goal. And then Calvert-Lewin doesn't play and Everton concede not a great goal and Luca Dean doesn't get involved. But at least I had that match to look forward to.
It's at this point,
like you say, you're just like, oh.
It's always the hope that
really
gets in this game.
Yeah, it's really tough owning a Leeds defender, isn't it? Ayling, obviously, I own him 2 points, but Leeds don't look like they're going to keep many clean sheets this season, do you think? It's really tough. No. Yeah, so you're relying on Ayling for attacking points, which...
He's centre-back, good luck.
Yeah, he's going to play centre-back for a little while, it looks like. A couple of the fixtures we've got coming up, we may well play 3 at the back. Southampton often play 4-4-2, so we'll play 3 at the back. So Ayling will certainly be right centre-back there. And then, if all we've got left is Cooper or Ayling himself is injured, there aren't any other centre-backs to cover even in the 4 at the back formation.
Yeah, it's tough. But 5 points for Bamford, 8 points for Rafinha for you. You've got to be happy with that. Despite the injury worries, obviously, I don't think Bielsa mentioned Bamford. You were saying pre-stream. But Rafinha looked like he had a little bit of a knock as well. I don't know what that was all about. Do you think that it's just a minor issue and they're going to be okay for next week?
I think, funnily enough, the rumours before the match about Rafinha carrying something may well have been true because it sounds like I've heard thigh and hip, so I'm not quite sure which. I guess they're connected, so it could be a bit of both. But it sounds like he was maybe carrying something and then on about, was it 65, 70 minutes, something like that. I guess he'd had enough. Bielsa brought him off for Somerville. And then Ayling and Bamford also went and got injured themselves. And those are the 2 Bielsa mentioned afterwards in the match. Rafinha and Ayling are the 2 he mentioned, saying they were injured. He didn't mention Bamford, although Bamford was hobbling around more than both of them. He got his ankle rolled and didn't really sprint for the last 15 minutes.
It's crazy.
No one left, Seb.
I know.
Well, it was interesting what you were saying. I was watching the matchday stream last night on Scout, and you were saying something interesting about Bielsa basically doesn't trust the youngsters to start any of the games, and he just fills the benches. And so basically, he's going to try and get these guys, these first 11 guys, back as quickly as possible. And if there's like a 50-50, he probably plays them in the starting 11 anyway, like the Rafinha rumours they might have gone the other way if it was a different manager last night. So
I'd say like it's not so much that he doesn't entirely trust the youngsters. It's more that he just doesn't trust anyone outside of like that core 17 he has. He has such a small first team squad, even though we've got a million centre backs. You've seen that with most of the positions when we get injuries. And then he fills the bench with the promising youngsters. And we do have some really good under 23s, but he will always default to one of his trusted first choice players over like a youngster or even a new signing. We've seen that with Dallas, who will play anywhere on the pitch. Ayling going to centre back. And last night, when Ayling went off, Calvin Phillips dropped into centre-back. Shackleton came on at right-back, rather than bringing on Charlie Cresswell, who was a under-23 very good centre-back, who stayed on the bench.
Yeah.
Right, back to the quiz. Third question. It's 1-0 to Seb. As this question's for you, the bonus points for Lukaku were 5, so that's your starting figure. What is Kieran Tierney's price in FPL? Is it higher or lower than 5?
It's lower. He's 4.9.
Absolutely spot on, mate. So that makes it 1-1 with Seb 1 to play. And we've got a question on Ben Rama. 4.9 is your starting figure, Kieran Tierney's price. How many attacking returns has Ben Rama had this season so far?
So higher or lower than 4.9?
Yes.
He has nothing in the weeks I've owned him, which is the last 2, and he got like doubles in the first, didn't he? So I'll say 4, so lower.
Correct.
Yeah,
spot on. So 2-1 to Seb. Very good. Right. Back to your team, Seb. Williams, you're playing in a 4-4-2. What do you think of his prospects against Watford, clean sheet wise? Because Norwich haven't been. Is it just out of necessity you're playing him?
Yeah, that's the Antonio. I wanted to keep Antonio for Leeds next week. We've discussed that obviously, and Williams. It's not ideal, but if you're not going to play Williams against Watford at home, I'm not sure when you're ever going to use him, and that's what he's there for. I'm not confident. I'll take my 2 points and be very happy.
Yeah, fair play. I noticed you got Jimenez there. Wasn't there? Yeah. I don't know whether this is complete conjecture. Did I see something about the people in his team had transferred him out or something?
Oh yeah, so Connor Cody had transferred him out for Danny Ings, I believe, and he'd also brought in Hwang as well, I think.
Yeah,
but you could. It's a bit like the Bamford with his hamstrings pinging.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have too much information. Like it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but because we know, we're going to read into it. So I put that aside. Unless there's an injury which we don't know about, which we've learned can happen. I really don't see why they would drop Jimenez, who fantasy football-wise hasn't returned. Real football-wise has done absolutely fine for them. He's doing the job they want. Lars
just said, wasn't he, that he's happy with his contributions and his potential, and he's pulled out some stats, like he was in the scout members area looking at his expected assists and all that. It was quite interesting because I was on the FPL show last week and they did an interview with Bamford. And obviously Bamford was saying last year, really into football, captained himself in loads of games and all that. They've got did you know they said they've got a complete ban now on any Leeds players having themselves, any Leeds players in their team, in their fantasy football team?
Really? I didn't know that. Is that from the Premier League or from Leeds?
That's from Leeds.
I had no idea.
So the Premier League is still happy for them to do it, but there's a ban in the Leeds dressing room. So they can still play it, but they can't have any, they can't. Just not give away any information. Yeah.
So I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wonder whether any other teams have the same rule.
And it's because of that Jimenez thing. It's because they don't want, Cody transferring Jimenez out. Yeah. If there was anything in that whatsoever, it's just a bit of extra information that I guess people imagine if he doesn't play and that was right. And Cody's like, Cody's got a big egg on his face, isn't he?
And I mean, that's big for Brentford, right? If that's a piece of information they get 24 hours before the match, there's time to change things to match that.
Absolutely bonkers. Right, last thing on your team, Seb. Salah captain, easiest decision of the entire season so far. Yeah,
pretty straightforward, isn't it? I don't have Ronaldo or Lukaku, so don't have that noise. Got Fernandes, who may well do fine in the couple more weeks I'll have him. But yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. Crystal Palace at home, maybe some temptation for Leeds players last night, but I think Salah's going to outscore both of them.
Yeah, you've got to think so. I'm getting flashbacks to when he was benched against Palace, though. It's kind of worrying me. But I think we're all captaining Salah, and I think his effective ownership is like 170%. So I think most of the rest of the world are captaining Salah as well.
You know what I'd love to do, but it's never really going to make sense, is captain Trent. because I know never captain a defender. He isn't a defender in terms of what he returns. But obviously, whenever Trent has a good fixture, so does Salah. And I just don't see when I'd ever want to not captain Salah if he has a good fixture.
Yeah, completely agree. If I had the balls, I would definitely do it just every week. He seems to be in a different league this year. His stats are so good that he's rivaling some of the midfielders and attackers for stats. So you probably arguably have him if he was classified as a midfielder. So the fact he's getting clean sheets on top of that, is absolute bonus. Right, let's move on to your team, Az. So we've got 3-5-2, Sanchez in goal, Salah captain, Tony up front. How have you still got Tony?
I don't know.
Billy Gilmore. Talk to me about Billy Gilmore.
I mean, what is there to say about Billy Gilmore other than just a world class attacking player that gets bags of goals?
He's due. He's not scored in a while. He's due.
Yeah, XG through the roof. It's just I mean, again, it's necessity, isn't it? It's just a fixture, really. I could have played Soufal, and Seb was vocal on Twitter saying I should have played him. But I chose to bench him. Tony is a tricky one, and this was the problem with him, was that it's hard to move him down to anyone else around his kind of price point. I actually think he's been playing pretty well against Brighton. He had that shot from sort of kind of almost at the halfway line that nearly caught Sanchez off guard, and he's played well against Arsenal, but wasn't really featuring. I think if he had better fixtures, I'd be really happy with keeping him. But because the fixtures are so bad, he kind of feels like I need to get rid of him. I just always had other things I wanted to do. Like last week, I wanted to get Ronaldo, so Tony stayed because I couldn't have afforded to. Got rid of to get rid of Ings instead. This week, I had to get rid of Simicast, and then there's some rumours that he might play, but he's still a long-term problem that I had to address. So that's why he's still in the team, because there's always been other fires to put out, and I don't really know what I'm hoping for now, because now I'm playing him against my new boy Semedo. So it's one of those clashes where I need a goal and something from Semedo. But
I can't believe you brought in Semedo. You're obviously he was a bit of a bandwagon this week because he's displaying a lot of attacking stats, but obviously he can't hit a barn door.
The stats are so good. I know what he's like, and I've had a few people already message me on Twitter saying, "Oh, is Mahrez next in?" It's like, no, because I had Semedo last year, and he was absolutely awful, and he showed promise. He gets advanced, but he could never really deliver that final, cutting ball or shoot particularly well. But I just think he's gonna get some jammy returns. You just can't be playing that advanced and not get some attacking returns somehow. A scuffed shot that gets deflected, a dodgy pass across that goes a bit wrong. Yeah, I just think it's coming for him, but it might be in about 6 weeks.
I think Mark's in the chat and he's asking you, are you able to look him in the eye when he delivers returns for you?
Well, I am now, because I've bought him in, so I'm showing some faith in him. So I feel like we're it's a clean slate. We've let bygones be bygones, and we'll go from here. But if after 2 weeks he hasn't performed, then I'm going to be pretty angry with him.
You've got room on that wall behind you for a nice little Semedo shave.
Semedo. Well, this is his chance. If he wants to feature on my wall of legends, then he needs to give me a double-digit return over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll talk.
Legends, crikey Moses. Is Sterling up there?
Sterling's up there. Yeah, absolute legend.
Unbelievable.
He was in the bin for a bit when he missed that penalty last year.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was my favourite video ever.
Yeah, it's the year before. The year before, I was having a really rough season, and towards the end of the season, he was banging them in for me. I captained him for a hat trick, I think, against, was it Watford or someone like that? And he just seemed to deliver every week. And it was funny because that season everyone hated him because they had him for the first part of the season, he didn't deliver, and I only had him for the second part, and he did. So it's funny how a player can be a hero for one person and a villain for another.
That's classic Hazard, isn't it? Where people used to hate him or love him, basically depending on when you used to own him.
Yeah, it's always such a what's the word? Random event. Whenever you brought him in, it was always he was going to explode or just completely flop for the next 5 game weeks. Callum Wilson did that as well. Absolute troll. So you've got double Brighton defence, Sanchez and Veltman. Much hope for the weekend. Leicester have been bottom of the attacking stats recently. I know they've had some tough fixtures, but Brighton have got every chance of keeping a clean sheet there, maybe, especially at home.
There's some records that you can't really overlook. I mean, I don't know if you were aware of Mane's record against Palace. He scored 8 times in a row consecutively against Palace, and he's on track to beat the all-time record for most consecutive goals against a single team. So we're talking. Everyone's talking about Salah and Trent and stuff. Mane is, to me, the pick if you had him, or if you've got him, or if a 1 week punt, if you're playing any the Phantom Daily Monster game, or any kind of 1 week thing. Mane, to me, he's going to be going all out to get that record. 8 in a row against Palace is nuts, right?
Is it mainly because of the record against Palace, or the fact that he was rested midweek in Champions League?
Yeah, I mean, and his stats are good. I mean, he's just not as clinical as Salah. He seems to be, regressing a bit in terms of his output and things. Anyway, it's not about Mane, it's about Brighton. Brighton will lose. We will lose against Leicester. I'm just sure. We always lose against Leicester. They just find a way. We've played them before when we've been playing really well and they've been struggling a bit, and they just always win. Like Vardy and Maddison just love playing against us. And yeah, I don't really have too much confidence. I don't know what's going to happen with Veltman. I mean, he could. I think he's probably going to switch to centre back. I think it's probably come a bit too early for Burn. Webster's out, so I think it's going to be Dunk, Veltman, and Dunk, Veltman, and who's the other one? I can't remember. Duffy. Sorry, yeah, Duffy. And then
how long has Duffy got in the team, do you reckon?
He's got time. I mean, Burn coming back puts some pressure on his place. I don't know how long Webster's out for. When all of those players are fit, I think we might start seeing a bit of rotation for him. Veltman obviously wants to play right wing back until Lamptey's back. God knows how long that's going to be. So I think as long as Lamptey's out and Veltman's playing on the right, I think Duffy probably stays in the team, because I think it's between him and Burn. And Burn's been injured, and I'm not entirely sure Potter's completely convinced with him anyway. So I think he's got a decent run, but when Lamptey's back, we'll see what happens with it.
You never know, mate. I think Brighton are overperforming at the moment, which is incredible stuff. I was going to put an over/underperforming question in the quiz for you, but
90th minute winner against Brentford, that never happens to us.
Unbelievable, Jeff. But speaking of Brighton, let's move back to the quiz. And we've got a question on Sanchez. We've got Ben Rama's attacking returns, which are 4, so that's your starting point. How many saves has Sanchez had this season? Is it higher or lower than 4?
He doesn't tend to make many saves.
He doesn't.
4? He must have made more than 4. I'm gonna say higher.
It is higher, yes, 7. It was a bit of a teaser one, because it's like.
Well, I know he doesn't make many, but I mean, a save a match would be really low, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he's one of the lowest scoring goalkeepers out there in terms of saves, so not good. But obviously Brighton are the possession team, aren't we? And we have Sanchez in there because of the clean sheet potential, and he's pretty consistent, isn't he? He's got 2 clean sheets already, 2 6s, 2 2s, so he's not really setting the world alight, but he's delivering kind of what we expected, I think, from him, which for 4.5 you can't really ask much more. 100%. And this is what I said to you when you were doing my team reveal for the start of the season. It's like paying 4.5 for like an Edison, where he doesn't really make many saves, but they're going to get a fair amount of clean sheets. Obviously going to get more clean sheets than Brighton overall, but you're not going to get the save points. You're just going to have to rely on those 6s. And Edison's really, really bad for saves. I think he's made less than Sanchez. 3, yeah. I think he was. So crazy. Anyway, your question, Seb, is on Ronaldo. Penalty area touches against Newcastle. Is it higher or lower than 7?
He had... Because you posted this for me in the week. I know you said he had, was it 7 shots, something like that. So it depends how we count touches, doesn't it? Because I know some stat providers count basically just a holding possession. So they could have 3 touches, but that goes down as 1 touch because they received a pass. So I will go lower than 7 because I reckon it might be like 6.
I'm afraid that's incorrect. He had 8. This is 8. All of these stats coming from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Big plug for that. So I'm not just making them up. So yeah,
and Seb slamming it, saying, "Well, the Fantasy Scout membership depends how they class the touch in the box."
Way overthinking it,
stalling for time, mate.
Yeah, well, you frantically look it up and still get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
100%. Well, that makes the context 2-2, so that's exciting going into the next one. But as back to your team, Grealish against Southampton, he's been pretty good, pretty consistent starter, 90 minutes every game. You happy with him?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I mean, if I'm picking a Man City player like from now, I'd probably pick him. But obviously he's 8 million, so he's a bit more than the likes of Torres. He was fantastic with Champions League. He's been playing well, but he's been kind of one of those frustrating fantasy picks where he looks good in the game, but is getting in the right areas, but isn't getting the returns. So I think he's only had a golden assist so far. When you win 5-0 twice, you're expecting more than that from him. But I just sense that he's just starting to kind of click more in the sides. They're starting to use him more in the dangerous areas. He's been frustrating because I think there's been a few times when a cross has come in and he's been like on the back post and a player's nicked in before him. I think Torres' header was one. And, if Torres had just left it, Grealish might have had a tap in. So I think returns are coming. It's just whether he can, for 8 million, he needs to be kind of consistently getting me points. And I just worry that he's going to be a player that always looks quite good, but never really delivers. I'm not entirely sure about him FPL wise, but I'm not going to be losing him anytime soon.
We've got a super chat, Sebastian. We don't get super chats in Fantasy Football Scout live streams, do we?
Well, I put them on for the Q&A and then forgot to take them off. So we will take this one, but no more super chats, I think.
Crazy.
Please.
Okay. I wildcarded this week. Went for the Fab Four and Rafinha.
Good question, actually.
Sam Maximin. 16 points so far. Maximin has 4 out of 5 matches under the radar. Sam Maximin under the radar? It's a good question.
It is a good question.
Az and I are playing Fantrax this year, and he's an absolute beast in Fantrax because you get loads of points for like take-ons and dribbles and all that sort of stuff. But in FPL, he has flied under the radar a little bit, or flew under the radar, I should say.
Flied under the radar.
Flied.
Nice.
So, yeah, he's always been one of that's let us all down in FPL, but maybe this could be, a purple patch for him. What do you think about Sam Maximin?
I mean, you were talking about a Tony replacement for Az. I'm not saying necessarily go there, but he's in that price range. There's Pookie there as well. The bit I kind of do like a little bit is, on Twitter, there was one of the official channel put out like a scout saying that he preferred St. Max over, I think it was Tony at the beginning of the season. Got a lot of nonsense for that. I'm kind of quietly pleased that maybe is coming off. And if Newcastle, with Wilson out as well, if Newcastle are going to do anything, it goes through St. Max. Even with Wilson in there, it goes through St. Max. So if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'm considering him for my team because we have 3 striker spots. I love the sort of 7.5s, and obviously I want Lukaku eventually. But if you're looking for that price point, you could probably do worse. The fixtures are decent.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you were brand new to FPL, you didn't have any historical context whatsoever, and you came in and just started watching football, you watch Sam Maximin, you think he's the best player in the entire world. He's just so good. But we know historically that he gets injured a lot. He has lots of patches where he doesn't do anything, and Newcastle have patches where they don't do anything. But if he stays fit, he genuinely could be an option, couldn't he? I remember when we all put him in our Game Week 1 teams last season, and then obviously, he didn't do anything, we all removed him. But maybe it's that bias from historical part, that we're going,
The bias as well is the position change, right? Because moving from midfielder to forward takes up a forward spot. Do you really want to be using a forward spot for a Newcastle player that, Wilson, I love, but obviously it's 7.5 he was. It's just tricky. Newcastle are just quite bad. Right? Let's be honest. And you can have the best player in the world, but if they're not going to get the service, then it's going to be hard for them to score goals. And he is historically a player that frustrates. But he isn't a good spell. You do sense if Newcastle have got any chance this year, he's going to have to pretty much drag them kicking and screaming to safety.
What are Newcastle's fixtures like? They're Leeds next. No, sorry.
They've just had
Leeds. Watford and Wolves.
There's one poor one and then like quite a nice run.
So they've got Watford, Wolves, Spurs and Palace. That's not a bad run. Yeah. If you all the forwards are injured at the moment, aren't they? Especially if Bamford is eventually out.
Well, Tony, for example, Tony to St. Maximin would have looked ridiculous at the start of the season, but now he's out of all the 6.5 million strikers and under, he's maybe the best one. Him and Edouard probably are probably the ones that I'd look for. I would try and push the money up to look for a Jimenez or a Bamford if I could, but if I was desperate, then I don't think I'm ever going to go there, but I can see why people might be tempted.
Crazy. I think you got your money's worth for that super chat. Let's just say that was a good discussion. Well, I've moved on to my team. 4-5-1. Oh, it's horrible. It just makes me sick. I took a -4. I don't know why I took this -4, but I brought in Traore and Marcel, 2 Wolves players for the 2 West Ham players, Kufal and Ben Rama. And in hindsight, I've got pretty lucky with that move if Ben Rama is out. But a -4. There's another reason for it, and it's so I can do Ronaldo and Tsimikas to Lukaku and Reece James in Game Week 7. I've got 0.2 wiggle room with that, so that's the reason why I went Marcel over Semedo. But in isolation, they're not good moves, and I'm just really hoping that Traore just finally bangs in either of these 2 home games that he's got up in the next 3.
I'm just impressed that you bought in Traore just after his stats have turned like quite poor. Like,
let's not say someone's stats have turned after 1 match. To be fair,
2 matches.
Exactly.
2 matches? Is it 2 matches? I thought it was
2 matches.
Oh well, that's twice as much data. I take it back.
Exactly. Yeah, his shots and just general, like, because his stats were crazy, right, in the first couple of games, and then they turned in the next 2. They're not as impressive, but
let's have a look. Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh. I think he's had decent stats the first 3 games, I'd say. And then the last game was pretty poor.
I mean, this is why we want longer sample sizes, right? Because if you were to look at the first 5 matches or 4 as a chunk, he would look quite good on average of those matches. But if you look at the first 2 or the last 2, you get 2 very different stories.
Yeah, so it's one of those.
I can hear you.
Okay, fine. I was just saying, yeah, Traore's conversion is rubbish, isn't it? So he's going to have a double-figure haul at some point, right?
Historically, his finishing hasn't been that terrible. I think because he in the past was always more of a creator. Like we saw him creating quite a lot of big chances, especially when he got a favourable matchup on the right-hand side. Because of him moving to the left recently and sort of cutting inside, he's getting more chances himself rather than creating them. So I don't know if we have enough data to know if he's a good or bad finisher, like ultimately. But in the past, his performance against things like XG, his shots and whatnot actually hasn't been too bad.
He does not strike me as a clinical finisher.
I know what you mean. Aesthetically, it's one of those, like, it's the old Greenwood one where in his first season his numbers were stupid, like unsustainably good. In his second season he underperformed his numbers, but both samples were so small that it was almost better to look at his technique. And I think everyone agrees that like Greenwood's technique is the other end of the scale, right?
Yeah, I put up some interesting stats actually about shot position, and Greenwood just has this ability to shift and get a shot on goal more than any other player. Like his shots blocked are some of the lowest in the entire league because he has that shift, that ability to get a clear line to the goal.
There's a really interesting, you might have seen this, but one of my favorite ones is you can take the XG of a shot when a pass is received, so a potential shot, and then the XG of when the shot is actually released and look at the difference between those 2 positions. And I think when I last looked at this, someone like Lewandowski was like top of that. So basically, every time he's receiving a ball, he's improving the chance for himself before he shoots. And I wonder if Greenwood would end up with a similar thing.
That is, if you're a stats nerd, which most of us are, that is properly good. I really like that.
Oh, thinking of nerds, let's go back to the quiz. I've got a question on Traore eventually, but the first one for you, we've got Ronaldo's 8 penalty error touches, which we're going to start. It was your starting figure of 8. Alexander-Arnold, chances created, how many has he had? Is it higher or lower than 8?
Oh, I think it's 12. I think I looked in the members area the other day.
So you're saying higher?
Oh, definitely higher.
It's actually 20. So yeah,
what?
it's.
I was gonna say that one was.
Good
mine was
Lord.
1 higher than the last one. His was.
Good Lord.
Higher.
20.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually no, it was 20.
20, like that is incredible. 20 chances created. I couldn't believe that when I saw it. It's like infinitely higher than so many other players. So yeah, correct that's 3 for you now. Seb, question on your man Bamford.
Uh-oh.
Number of goals last season.
I know what that is. It's lower at 17.
Oh, that was a bit.
Sorry, did you just give Seb a Leeds question? Then again, mine was pretty easy. But
that trend question was okay, I reckon.
Next to those 2 questions, I've put easy. So, right, okay. We'll do 2 more questions and then we'll go back to the team.
how many was it? 17, was it?
It's 17 goals, 11 assists in the Premier League.
17, yeah.
The
17.
assists might be different because he probably got some fantasy assists.
Very decent. I'm not sure if he'll match that this year, though. Yeah, I think everyone's going second season syndrome, which I know that you hate, but they might. Yeah.
The reason I hate it is it's kind of like a few things. It's just kind of lazy analysis in terms of even if it's true, you can't tell me why. So why is it valuable? So teams might struggle in the second half in their second season. But it's useful to know why, not just to come out with a phrase that doesn't actually tell us anything.
Well, I guess the reason would be like we were talking about before we came on. Is if teams have learned to just press your midfield and just exploit that weakness, then you're just going to concede loads more goals. And if your attack isn't clicking like they were last season, and the kind of the chemistry isn't there. Some new signings haven't gelled. That'd be the reason. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying, I think it was just before the show, just saying that like the defense has never been great, and with centre backs out, it's only going to get worse. But the real issue has been that midfield, where Dallas's role has changed a bit, and it's not preventing centre backs bringing the ball forward, and midfielders like Scott McTominay dominating us as they will do if we let them. And then we've become a lot more transitional. So we're just holding the ball a lot less. We're trying to hit Bamford. We're trying to hit Rafinha, looking for Rafinha to create it all, which is great for fantasy, not so good for real world football.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Right. Next 2 questions. This one's on Traore for you, Az. Number of take-ons out for the first 4 game weeks. Is it higher or lower than Bamford's 17 goals last season?
Oh, he does a lot of take-ons. I'm gonna say higher.
Final answer?
Sure.
45.
Jesus
45
Christ.
take-ons, and 38 of them were successful.
In 4 matches?
Absolutely insane. That is literally his best stat, though. I mean, his conversion's rubbish. Yeah, he's got lots of shots and chances created and all this, but they're typically low percentage. But 45...
Great for fan tracks, not so good for... Well, I mean,
exactly.
But it doesn't actually get you points.
What's his success? Do you know what his success ratio of those is? Oh, did you say, sorry, 30? Yeah.
Yeah, 38 was successful out of 45. Good. So 85% or whatever.
Depending on how we quantify it, I know like in the past, someone like Zaha comes up really well, but often his success rate was like 50% or something.
But he needs to do something with it. He needs to do something with it. Like, it's all well and saying.
You have no attacking returns when you've had that many take-ons.
I mean, we've all watched him, haven't we? He's an absolutely fantastic player. He just can't put the ball in the back of the net. It's got to happen at some point, hasn't it? Brentford at home is the time. Come on.
Grease him up more.
Right, so 4-3 to Az, but Seb, you've got a question in hand. De Bruyne.
Is it 4-3? We're even, aren't we?
No. You've had one more question.
You've had one more question.
You've had one more question.
Okay, cool.
De Bruyne, how many minutes has he played this season? Is it higher or lower than 45?
Has he only come off the bench in that first match? I think he might only have come off the bench in the first match, so I'm gonna say lower.
Yes, correct. 11 minutes he's played this season.
Wow. There we go. Jeez.
4 all. 2 more questions, and they're very difficult, so we'll leave them till last, but that is going to be the decider, I think. Back to my team. Marçal, I really hate that move. I had to do it because of the price. Like, what do you think about...
Who did you take out for him?
Sufal, whatever he's called. Man United. I know West Ham have got Leeds and who is it? Brentford in the next 2 after Man United. So they're still decent, and Sufal is a decent option. But I want Reece James. And I want to avoid wildcarding game week 7. So I'm doing all I can to sort of plan ahead and try and get triple Chelsea for game week 7. And I think the team looks all right with those plans. But
you didn't need to do that though, did you?
I didn't need to do that, but I want to get rid of Tsimikas, and Tsimikas is proving like a massive bane of my life because I've always wanted Jota. I really regret going Tsimikas at the start of the season, even though he got those 2 decent returns, but he's been a real pain since then. And I think Jota owners are going to haul this week. I think they were unlucky not to against in their last game. I can't remember who they played, but yeah,
Leeds.
Leeds, unbelievable. Yeah, I couldn't believe Mane missed all of those chances. It was unbelievable.
Although you put up a really good graphic that showed that like 50% of his shots were blocked, which maybe shows that while he had 20 odd shots, not all of them are worth the same as some of the other ones.
His decision making it's gone to pot though, and he was doing it last season as well. Salah to me is growing as a player every year. He looks the best he's ever looked this season, I think. Even though his stats are down, and I think his XG is the lowest out of all the premiums, for the start of the season. But every time he gets the ball, it looks like he's going to do the right thing. He's either going to lay it off, he's going to run, he's going to shoot. Mane is just the complete opposite. I don't know what's happened to him over the last season. Do you know what? I'm not going to say a controversial opinion on this show, but I normally do.
Do it.
Well, if I was Liverpool, I would be wondering if maybe it's time to sell him. There you go.
How old is Mane? Do we know? Because, that's not crazy. If he's 28 or
29?
something.
28, 29?
Yeah, that's not, if someone will give you like a lot of money for him, that's not
he's
crazy.
29.
Because a lot of Liverpool's team, especially like the attacking players, are all going to age, or a similar sort of age. They're all going to end at the same point. If you get no money back in for any of them, it's going to be hard to replace. So I'm not saying Mane deserves to be sold, but if you're going to sell someone, you'd want to do it before they get to an age where you're not going to get any money for them.
It's a really interesting point of view because obviously Mane adds an element of dynamism to that team. If you replaced him with someone else who maybe was more clinical but didn't necessarily do the groundwork like Mane does, it might make Liverpool less of a team. But yeah, it's that decision making I think is the most important aspect of a footballer, and Salah clearly has that superior decision making ability. He's able to be more clinical than Mane, but if for some reason Mane just fumbles around with the touch before the shot, and it allows the defenders to swarm, and that's why most of his shots are blocked. And in the past few seasons, he has been one of the best for scoring wonder goals. Like, he's had a really high small chance conversion rate, but his big chance conversion rate's always been really low, which means he misses the easy efforts. I don't know why that is. It maybe it's a mindset thing, surely, but you can't deny that he's an excellent footballer and he makes Liverpool a better team.
Well, like you say, I mean, FPL aside, his pressing on that side has been shown to make Liverpool a lot worse when he's not there to do it. So he's very important to their team, even away from the goal.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly. Right, last two questions on the quiz before we look to end. This is a pivotal moment for all.
I'd just like to point out that because we're not doing ABBA and I'm going second every time, Az has a 60% chance of winning.
Oh, Seb, such a party pooper.
That's just mind game. That's just putting the pressure on.
Oh, my days. Okay, Az, your question. De Bruyne's 11 minutes is your starting position. How many shots has Harry Kane had in the first 4 game weeks? Is it higher or lower than 11?
It's definitely lower than 11.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Final answer?
Yeah.
It is. Two shots.
Yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, when you have no touches in the penalty area and no shots against Crystal Palace, and he missed the first game, and he didn't play particularly well in the other games either. There's something very, very not right with him and Spurs in general. I mean, Spurs in general, no creativity in the side, industrious midfield, but no real creativity. They need to get Gill in the team. Kane looks isolated. Does he even look like he can be bothered this season? I don't think so. He's such an avoid for me.
And Lo Celso, like, I know he's injured recently, but even before that, he wasn't in the team. He's brilliant. He was great in Spain, and he's arguably exactly what they need. He's industrious as well, but he's brilliant creatively.
It's such a strange moment for Kane, isn't it? Because obviously he had that annoying transfer dilemma thing with Man City, but I mean, surely Nuno has to get him motivated and he becomes good again. Like, there's no way he's going to have a rubbish season because it affects his transfer value, it affects his prospects for going to another club. He has to just buck up and just do his job.
But I just don't know who can get him the ball. Like, he can't do everything on his own. He's going to have to drop deeper and deeper to make stuff happen because he's the only one who can kind of string a pass together with the team they're currently playing. So they're not going to be using him in the most dangerous areas. I just don't know how many returns he's going to get. And until they, like Seb says, they bring in someone like Lo Celso or Gill and say to him, look, stop coming. I mean, his heat map was like behind the bloody halfway line against Palace. Like, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I don't know about Spurs this season. Romero might make a difference for them, but as you say, their attacking players like Lo Celso hasn't been playing. Son is sort of injured at the moment, isn't he? So this is going to affect the team's dynamism. It'd be interesting to see. Kane has to be the leader, has to be the captain and just pull them up by their coattails and do something with it. Otherwise, I'd be worried.
I think he's carried them in the past, but I think it's the team now. I think it's one job too much for him. I just don't see him being able to do it.
I mean, like, don't get us wrong, it's Harry Kane. He could turn around and score 20 goals in the rest of the season, no problem. But just right now, it doesn't really look like it.
Yeah, tough. Right, Seb, your last question, and if you get it right, we've got a tiebreaker question for you both. So there will be a winner at the end of this. Raul Jimenez, your man, he's going to do wonders today at Brentford. How many shots on target has he had this season?
I know the answer to that. It's lower. It's 1.
Okay, I was going to say higher or lower than 2. Yes, it is 1.
I would have definitely said higher.
Which is a shock, right? I mean, he's had He's had a lot. He's had a lot of shots.
So I think he's had. It was so before last week. I looked it up, hence knowing the answer. It was 12 shots, 11 in the box, 1 on the target. On target. Last week, I know he missed something that went down as a big chance, that header. But headers are tough, so fair enough. But I think that might have been his only chance. So it could be 13 shots now. He's created a couple of big chances, I think, and he's got in decent enough positions. But like you say, just that conversion isn't quite there at the moment.
Which is going to affect Traore as well, because Traore is, creates the chances. He needs someone to convert him for him. So
Jimenez created one of Semedo's as well, which was like equally gutting because you're talking about Semedo missing. I don't have Semedo, but I was there with Jimenez going, "Oh, you're affecting my player as well."
Unbelievable. So yeah, I think when the floodgates open for Jimenez, which I think they will do at some point, then the Wolves players look really good.
That's why I had him. I'm basically just going for I'm not saying he's better than Ronaldo or Lukaku or anything like that, but I think he's maybe just being undervalued at the moment because he does have the numbers, and when you're watching Wolves to improve, there's an opportunity to improve. So I'm just gambling that he will effectively. And I think that's a bigger gain than, say, just getting on Ronaldo after he's already scored a couple of goals.
I think what is interesting with him is historically, Jimenez isn't that. Jimenez isn't someone who has loads of shots and only puts a couple on target. He's someone who's normally quite clinical. Like, you trust him, right? He's the one player in that Wolves side who would get a chance and I'd expect him to score it. And I don't know if this season it's kind of, after the injury he's had and he's still he's snatching at chance a little bit, or he's not quite right. My worry with him is how much that injury has affected him. And I think the longer he goes without a goal, the more it gets in his own head.
Yeah.
And he needs to get that first goal. So I think you're brave getting him in before he's got that first goal. But equally, once he's got it, I expect him to start banging them in.
Yeah, it's that preemptive transfer. You look like a complete genius if it works out, but you look like an idiot if it doesn't. It's what it is. I've done exactly the same, mate. I've done brought in Traore.
Whenever the seasons I've done best, it's identifying like Vardy before a great run, identifying Danny Ings. There was a James Maddison season, obviously same time as Vardy, I guess, where you're basically just looking for, like, we all know Salah's going to do great, especially when he's got good fixtures. What you want out of, say, a Jimenez or a Bamford or the Vardy in the past is someone who has the ability, means, motive, and opportunity, if you like. Motive, funny one, they're professional footballers. But means being, okay, he's got the stats, he's got the team around him to create chances and score chances. And then opportunity, well, they've got the fixtures. I like that as a gamble, a risk-reward ratio.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I really hope this Brentford at home fixture it's the one, surely.
Brentford have been decent at the back so far, so we'll see.
They have, but Wolves have been decent at home, especially against Spurs. So we'll see. We will see. But it was Spurs, I suppose. Right, tiebreaker question. It's literally just a quiz question. First one to shout it out wins. Ooh. What is the only Premier League team whose name starts with 5 consonants?
Jesus Christ.
It's good content, Ted, as we're both here silently going through Premier League teams.
If anyone Crystal Palace.
Oh, nice.
Come on.
I was going from bottom up. So yeah, I was never going to get there.
Means everything.
Oh, nice.
I was literally just going through teams, and then I was like, Crystal, C-R-Y,
exactly.
S-T. Oh my God.
I was going bottom up because I was like, there are fewer vowels down there in terms of what will be in teams. So yeah, but bad times.
Love that. Did anyone get it in the chat? Martin Boyle got it in the chat.
Oh, nice.
Cheers to Chris El Fozzi in the chat, who's just asked the question, who has the most football knowledge out of the three of us? I mean, obviously it's Seb. Like,
oh no,
he's just set us up, Ted, to look like mugs with that poll. So cheers for that, Chris. Appreciate it.
My God, he's actually put it in the poll. Unbelievable.
I know. Leeds knowledge. Not football, Leeds knowledge.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it's definitely not me, so that's absolutely fine.
We were saying before the show that if Leeds do get relegated this year, that's it. I'm gone. I've got nothing to offer Scout anymore.
It's actually fantasy knowledge. And, I'm just saying.
Oh, the ranks are on the screen. So if you want to...
Seb came for me last year, lost by 1 point.
I can't remember if we talked about that. The last day of the season, I was like giving it the big, don't take risks on the last day of the season. Like, there's, if you're close to doing what you want to do, because you've got the least amount of time for it to pay off. Just go simple, not safe, but simple. Don't take a hit. I did one transfer, which was like, can't remember who my goalkeeper was, but I brought in like Lloris. Oh no, it might have been, it doesn't matter. It was a goalkeeper, Mendy, Lloris, something like that. And it ended up being like a 1 point gain or something. the goalkeeper I had before kept a clean sheet. If I'd just done nothing, I would have beaten you.
You'd have beaten
So
me.
my move made it worse.
I loved our little battle around the 150k mark.
Yeah.
It meant everything.
It's a crazy start to the season, isn't it? Everyone in the community seems to be doing all right compared to last season, which was a bit of a strange one. So interesting how far people will go. I think someone in the community will win it this year. I think. It might be Az.
Yeah,
or maybe not.
Seb.
I'm fully on board the Az train.
Nah, Seb's won with 58% of the vote for the best fantasy knowledge. So no pressure, Seb.
Unbelievable. I need to get really good at talking about one thing rather than just dabbling in something rubbish.
But if this question was like, who's the best at presenting data or interpreting numbers and putting them in visual form, that's Ted.
Yeah, thanks, Seb. Oh,
That's a really That's a really, really granularly precise question. That's
I didn't mean it to
thing.
be. It kind of sounded like I didn't mean it to be. Sorry. But,
I don't know if you saw Ted, but someone said that you looked a bit like Iron Man today.
What?
So that's nice.
yeah, man.
As in Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
That's
I also think, I feel like you could play Peter Parker.
that. I've had that before. Andrew Garfield was one, but yeah, I've just got that generic, boring face that I look like everyone.
That's exactly what Seb meant.
Exactly. Just
Yeah. You could play anyone, Ted. Yeah. I'll just cast you as the crowd.
Yeah, at least I'll make money from extra funds.
Very good.
Stuff. On that horrible bombshell, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us, chaps. Enjoyed the quiz. Congrats to Az, the new king of the stats showdown. Sorry, Seb. You get your chance to redeem yourself.
Poll was wrong, wasn't it? We just proved it.
Yeah. Crystal Palace coming through for me.
Love it.
What a rarity.
Right.
Who has the best alphabet knowledge?
As always, is tight roping the line between genius and idiocy.
Oh, that's a good place to be.
I think, yeah, you're like Luis Suarez, It's like...
Wow, that's a comparison that maybe in terms of football, but then.
Well, he was a genius, but he was also insane. So there we go. Right, amazing.
Excellent.
That was good fun. So
Very good fun. Well done, Tim.
I'll catch you guys later, and good luck for the rest of your weekend.